So, what if I asked you, how would you like if they would incorporate the genre of horror survival in Star Wars? Okay, many of you would probably be a bit, say what? Bit unsure about that. Okay, it's an odd subject to bring up, but would horror work in Star Wars? Well, there's already been a novel that was written several years ago called Death Troopers. Now, this novel brings the horror zombie element in Star Wars. Now, this is a very debated topic amongst Star Wars forums, saying that, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing zombies in Star Wars. No, I would not want to see zombies in Star Wars. I say yes, but only if it's done in a certain way. Now, about a year and a half ago, I created a page called Who Else Wants Star Wars Death Troopers, a bit like the Battlefront one I'd made recently, previously. And for it, I'm saying, when you bring the horror zombie element into it, you do that last. Because first you want to establish atmosphere. Now, me being quite a big film buff, I got a few ideas how they could do this game. One of them being the 1990s movie Event Horizon. Event Horizon is one of these kind of horror sci-fi movies that kind of slip under the radar, but it's underrated. It is a good movie. It's scary, it's horrifying at times, and quite bloody and gory. Apparently the original cut of this, which was meant to be 40 to 50 minutes longer, was even gorier and worse. I wish I had it. So, how could Event Horizon influence Star Wars through horror? Well, obviously the atmosphere. If you were to have a ship, a Star Destroyer such as it was in the novel, to be taken over by this disease, this bioweapon created by the Empire from ancient Sith magic, to corrupt and turn its crew into the undead, well, what happens to the dark side? Well, it could take over the ship. We've seen that before in haunted house movies and in Event Horizon, that a dark presence takes over the ship and just starts twisting the survivors, the rescuers, the people that go investigate. Corridors become twisted, vents become longer and longer. Those kind of pullbacks where it just feels like this ship is now fucking evil. That is the idea to make. You turn the ship into its own character and malevolence in itself. So not only would you have to fight off the undead, stormtroopers, you would also have a possessed ship, which I think, hey, it's doable in Star Wars. We have seen places that has been corrupted by the dark side. That cave in Empire Strikes Back, which Luke goes into, that was possessed by the dark side. There's a planet, Moraban or Korriban, whichever name you choose for this planet, that planet is corrupted by the dark side. Yavin 4 from A New Hope in the now legendary EU, that planet was of the dark side at one time. So, hey, it has got the power to corrupt and take over things. Another little thing is, we've seen this now in Disney's Star Wars Commander, that the concept is now canon, while the novel isn't. It can still be used as inspiration and be made relevant, at least. There's another concept which was also made in this game, that there's these armoured stormtroopers called Dark Troopers. These are sort of like cyborgs that are half human, half robot. Now imagine if that were to turn into the undead. Imagine if that got infected by this bioweapon. That would be pretty terrifying. It's like something from the movie Virus, where some kind of electric being takes over a ship and then starts basically churning the crew into these cyborgs, through some kind of factory conveyance line. It's an underrated movie. It's not brilliant, it's not good. Virus sort of is hammy at times, but the practical effects in this movie for these cyborgs is brilliant. Now, if you have something like this in Star Wars, it opens the door to something else. We're getting another kind of fear factor. And it does bring to the Death Troopers thing. What more could you do with it? Another 90s flick is Deep Rising, where creatures take over another ship out in the Pacific Ocean, and they're like these weird tentacle monsters. Now imagine if one of these kind of things were on this Star Destroyer, which is actually a fact. We've seen in New Hope that there were these kind of creatures in the garbage compactors in that movie. What if one of them would become infected and start going around the ship, bending the pipes, like bending the walls? What happens if this thing were to grab you and eat you? What would happen then? What would happen to the flesh if it's dead and eats you? It's pretty a horrifying thing if all these things are going around a ship. Not only is it like zombie stormtroopers, fucked up cyborgs, now messed up creatures. This kind of concept does have, like, it does have some sort of grounding at least. It can be done, and it could be a fun thing to see made. It won't appeal to everyone. There'll be people here thinking, no, I don't want to see a horror game. Fair enough, it's not for you. But at the end of the day, if it were to be made, you don't have to buy it. Me? I'm interested in the concept, but only if it's done in a certain way. I don't want to see, if it were to be made, Star Wars Death Troopers as a COD clone of zombies. If you're going to do zombies, you make it the last thing you sort of do. You build up on the tension, you build up on the suspense, you build up on the atmosphere first. In fact, game-wise, take inspiration from games as Alien Isolation and Dead Space. You look at them thinking, okay, what did they do for horror survival? And how can we incorporate that in Star Wars? Because you don't want to be taking on hordes of zombie stormtroopers like it is Call of Duty. You know, you want to add some survival to it. You want to make it terrifying. Thinking, okay, stormtroopers, when you're like trying to take on people normally, you want to make it as scary as possible. How would you make that scary? Well, maybe they think, maybe they get smart as the game progresses, that they then start being able to use weapons, actually look for you, actually be able to operate things, close doors. Again, hey, if the ship's possessed as well, maybe the dark sides are doing something to the ship as well. You just had all this stuff thinking like, alright, how can we take Star Wars and make it dark? I mean, you are literally now in hell in Star Wars, taking on the Death Troopers. It's a genre I wouldn't mind seeing done to Star Wars, really. I don't think it will work within film because it'll put off a lot of people with film, but in a video game it can be done differently. Which is a little bit of an odd thing for me, the movie maniac, to bring up a video game, but hey, I honestly think there are inspirations from these films, from Event Horizon, Virus, and Deep Rising, and Alien. Alien, of course. These kind of elements can be used in Star Wars for a video game to create something new, something different, something that we haven't quite seen yet in this media. We have sort of seen it before in the Clone Wars, where these Geonosians became the Undead, but let's actually be able to go in there, in a game, and be able to feel like, oh god, there are these things everywhere. And if I make a noise, if I happen to do something, they're going to be alert to my presence. They're going to be acting differently. Like you've seen in Star Wars, that cantina, they're full of life forms. What would happen if one of these kind of things were to be taken over? What would happen if a Bosch, a Trandoshan would become infected? What would happen if, hey, that creature from the garbage compactor would become infected? What if a Minox were to become infected? What would happen if these creatures were to become infected and take you on? There's a lot of possibilities to it. Again, not everyone's going to like it. Not everybody is going to play it. But there is an audience for it. That audience is growing, and there is evidence to that. So, hey, it's a concept that could be used, but will it? Event Horizon itself is an underrated movie, but hey, it does the atmosphere. It just does it. It's dark. It is cold. It is malevolent. This ship basically went to hell and back. That's what this Star Destroyer should do. It should metaphorically go to hell and back. beyond really twisted and dark, and that's the potential Death Troopers can do. It doesn't have to be properly in line canon to the movies, but hey, if it's a good fun concept and it doesn't actually quite touch the movies, it can still be good. I think fans would probably like that a bit more, that it doesn't quite connect to the movies, but it's its own standalone game. That this thing happened, and basically the Empire tries to... It didn't happen. It didn't happen. That its survivors still survived its experiencing, but since it was so traumatic, they didn't really talk about it that much. I think there is room for this to happen in Star Wars. But the question is, do you think it is? Do you think that there is potential for a Death Troopers game by using influences not solely from the zombie genre, but from the horror genre in its entirety? Can influences from these movies work in Star Wars? I've been the Movie Maniac, your movie fanatic sociopath for this evening. See you later.